I am tearing up.
I just about screamed right now, and I'm not even there.
Now that's inspirational, Natalie. I feel inspired today.
Part two of this.
I could be here for another hour.
And then I was top of my class. There were only 2 of us, and the other guy was in the hospital. So here I am.
And I always go, he winds up homeless on the street. It's my fault.
Yeah, now you sound like my wife.
And you can get off.
I don't know. Call it Google. Or call it Google.
We're in control. Alexa, how does he get across?
Paul, I cut you off earlier. What were you going to say?
What?
Dang it! Don't do that to me, Paul. Don't do that to me, man.
I don't know what got into my head, but I thought this thought, if I'm working year round, I might as well get paid year round.
Sweet Talk is a weekly 20-minute podcast brought to you by the Continuing Education and Workforce Training Division of Idaho State University's College of Technology. Find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and SoundCloud, and subscribe today. Now, it's time to get started with Sweet Talk.
Angela, welcome on back. We're here for our podcast here. This is our last podcast that we are doing here in 2022. It's kind of cool. We're finishing up our days here at Idaho State University and getting ready to go into our Christmas break. Are you doing okay? Are you excited about this?
I'm really excited about having Brittney on. I've known a few people who've gone through the program we're about to talk to. I think it's really exciting. This podcast should come out while we're filming it in 2022. It will come out in 2023. So it's, I guess, our version of a time machine. But I'm very excited and welcome, Brittney.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so welcome to our audience to Sweet Talk. Last one in December of 2022. We're here with Brittney Gwynn. She's one of our great instructors in the Veterans to Nursing program, and we're going to do a kind of a catch up with her. We've spoken to her previously once before, and it's been a while. We thought maybe this would be a great time as we close things out here, also to see how that program's going. Welcome, Brittney. It's good to see you again. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm doing well. Thank you again for inviting me to come onto the show. I really enjoyed myself last time, so I was really excited when you guys reached out and asked me to join. So
yeah, that's awesome. And for those who don't know, I forgot to say, the Veterans to Nursing program is part of the Health Occupations programs offerings, and they are in the College of Technology here at Idaho State University. So welcome back. And Brittney, maybe an easy thing to do to kind of get into this is to ask you if you would just give everybody a recap of your experience, your background, and then we can start talking about the program.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am a veteran myself. I joined the Navy at a tender age of 17. So I ran off as fast as I could. And back in those days, corpsman was a hot commodity. So for folks who do not know what a corpsman is, it is the medical personnel for the Marine Corps and for the Navy. So that's what I did. I worked in a lot of places in the naval hospitals, but I primarily focused on being certified in field medicine, which is an 8404, and then a psych tech, which is an 8485. So with that, I was stationed mostly on the East Coast. I worked in labor and delivery and pediatrics. Then I was deployed to Guantanamo Bay, and I did detention care. And then I was in Washington, where I did a lot of mental health. And then I was deployed to Afghanistan, where I worked in the Role 3 Combat Hospital and did some outside the wire missions, and then stayed mostly inside working with traumas and mental health.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that was quite the experience. When I got out of the Navy, I started having a family. I went to school. I started going in to the traditional route for nursing. And not that it's a bad route at all, it's an excellent program, but it just didn't work very well for me because I had a family and had a lot of experience, but it wasn't well recognized because it's not well understood what a corpsman is. And for folks who don't know, I still encourage them to Google it. Corpsmen are kind of a big deal. So it was kind of hard, and I struggled a little bit with the transition from military. I was in for 6 years into a civilian role. And then Todd Johnson, who is the director of the Veteran Support Center actually reached out to me and told me that there was a program specifically for corpsmen and medics to get their LPN, which is a licensed practical nurse. And so I was actually in the very first pilot to see how, if it worked out, and clearly it did, because now after I became a nurse, I worked in corrections, so in prisons and jails and things like that, and then also med surg. So I came back to be the instructor for the veterans.
So you got your LPN through that program? Did you further your education in nursing through one of those programs as well?
Oh yeah, that's kind of important for sure. I did, yes. So I did move on to the ADRN program through the College of Tech nursing programs. So the veteran to nurse is basically what's important to understand, especially in the eyes of the VA, is that the veteran to nurse is not a island entity. It is part of the nursing programs. We just offer this to the veterans to give them the credit where credit is due, so that they don't have to redo things. So it was a very nice segue for me to do veteran to nurse, get me my LPN, and then I went through the ADRN program, and then got my RN, and then completed my bachelor's through the School of Nursing. So I did all this in a pretty short time.
Wow. Well, is that a normal career path that you would see for anybody trying to come in from the military to go that same way?
So for the folks who come to us, yes, that is pretty what we see typically. Our students will what we call pipeline through, because we do encourage them to carry out their career as far as they want to go. A lot of them do want to become advanced practice nurses eventually. And so we do encourage them to do this route because we can help them achieve their RN in a quicker route, but also we, like I said, kind of cut out the areas that they already know. And so we're all about not wasting their time or their GI Bill or other benefits they may have gotten from the VA.
Yeah, that's great. You know, you touched on something that maybe is important for anybody who's listening who might be a veteran considering the program, but when some of the veterans get out, you know, you're coming into a different culture. You're leaving a culture, you're coming back into a culture, and there is a bit of a transition time in there. You said it took you around 6 years. Was that right? After you got out?
So I was in the military for 6 years,
You were in
but
the military
I
for
would
6.
say that it probably took around the same amount of time for me to kind of get used to being in the civilian role, because it is, in a sense, losing your identity when you do leave the military, but especially when you are in roles in the military, such as being a medic or being a corpsman. That is a role of high responsibility and high respect.
Right.
And so when you leave that, you feel like part of you is missing because nobody really understands unless you are in that same culture. It is a big transition. I struggled very, very hard. So part of my job as being the instructor for these students and veterans is to also help mentor them in a way to help transition, and let them know that they're not the only ones that are having these feelings of doubt or feeling like they're lost or in some way, because it is really hard. Like you said, it's a totally different culture. The military is definitely a different culture. So
Well, you going into it, you know, you're making that same transition, jumping from what you've known, and then you're going into the military culture, coming back, especially after you've been in positions like you were talking about, where you had so much responsibility, you're trying so many different things. Then you come out, and now suddenly you don't have that same level of acknowledgement of, hey, these were the things I know how to do already. So I can see that. Is that something, and I may be going off the program here, but is that something that you see with a lot of the veterans that you deal with?
absolutely. I know ISU is a huge advocate for veteran support. I know a lot of faculty all through campus are huge supporters of our veteran students. However, it is still hard to understand where they're coming from if you haven't been there. And that's okay. I mean, being on our side is just the biggest step. But yeah, a lot of times students don't feel like they're well understood, and how they may cope with these changes may be more off-putting to some people because they tend to be more reserved,
Mhm.
again, because they feel like an island, they feel like they are alone. And so, yeah, I do think that a lot of people don't quite understand how to approach a veteran who may be having difficulties with that transition. So we
Right.
do have the veteran support advocacy that we had started on campus, and we have reached out to involve some other faculty and staff members to be trained of how to interact with veterans who may be struggling emotionally or with their own new roles as a student. And so we have been working on that with the Veteran Support Center.
So
Right.
I have a question for you. In your program, what is the percentage of instructors or any sort of faculty that are veterans that students can relate to if they're coming from that military background?
So I am the only veteran instructor for the nursing programs through College of Technology.
Okay.
However, I have so my director, Jenny Brumfield, is a mental health nurse practitioner. She has worked with veterans quite a bit in her career as well. So although she's always discloses I am not a veteran, however, I am a huge supporter of veterans, and so she's always willing to talk with our students if they are having any kind of, like, I don't want to say mental health issues, but if they just want to talk. So
Right.
we are very supportive in that regard. That's a nice thing. We have a bunch of nurses here, so they do know how to identify if somebody is having some kind of struggle, and knowing at least to come get me, or they can talk to them or things like that.
Right, right. And Jenny's cool. I mean,
She
for
is.
those of you who don't know her, she's just awesome. And so is Todd over in the Vet Services Center. I mean, it's a good cadre of people around here. They're fairly relaxed in approaching in conversations. They're very, very helpful. So for anybody who's thinking about this, hey, Brittney, thank you for doing that and taking the lead on the program. That's awesome. Can I ask how many participants are you seeing coming into your program?
It's a pretty small group of individuals because, we have a very narrow population of students that we are looking for. But right now I have 5. I had 4 this semester. Now I have 5 because one of my students actually got deployed last cohort.
Whoa.
So he's returning next semester.
Okay.
So we're excited to have him back and hear his stories. So, but we usually have pretty small groups coming in. But that's usually nice too, because then we can have a more personal interaction with these students, and spend more time, especially first semester. I have 2 students who have just recently gotten out of the military, so they are having some adjustments, so I can spend more time with them. And then I have one who just entered the military over the last summer, so he's brand new. And so we do have different levels of experience, and so we can be more intimate in working with these students on their basic needs.
Well, that's
So
interesting. I'm
if
sorry,
you
Angela,
have,
go ahead.
oh no, it's okay. If you have students who have just entered the military, is this program for students who might be in the reserves or students who have come back? Like what type of student are you looking for?
That's a great question. I did not clarify that, so thank you. So I take veterans. We do take National Guard and Reserve as well. We do want to do active duty, but that one's kind of hard because working with active duty is difficult because of the distance. It is nursing. You have to be here so we can see that you can take care of patients. So that part's a little challenging. So that is something we have been trying to work on for a long time, of how logistically we're going to do active duty. And so active duty means the individuals who are still in the military right now.
Right. And that's an interesting point too. I mean, if somebody isn't here, are they able to take any classes? Like, are there online opportunities and then they can come in later on? Can that work?
Yeah. So my program, again, is because it is a branch from the traditional program, the traditional LPN program. So it is a hybrid. So I do have students that are out in Boise or in Idaho Falls and things like that. And so for what we call the didactic, which is the class stuff where we teach them, they can be online for that, and we can be in person on Zoom and things like that. I've had some that still commute from like Blackfoot or Idaho Falls to be in class because they prefer that. And that is an option too. And then I do try to group times where they can come to our brand new simulation lab and our brand new skills lab, which that place is cool. I'm really geeked out over that.
Now, is this for all veterans or veterans specifically who are corpsmen or in the medical field?
For my program?
Correct.
Oh, yes, that is correct. So it's all for they have to be a corpsman or medic or something equivalent to that. I've had students that have applied that were in the military 20 years ago, and they were medical personnel. It was just called something differently, but they still were medical personnel. So I still take them as long as they have that MOS, that job description of being a medical personnel. So unfortunately, people who have taken like combat first aid and they were like infantry Marine, I cannot take them because they don't have our whole credits are based off of what's called the NCSBN analysis. And that is part of the Board of Nursing. And they have actually looked at the training that's in corpsman and medic training and compared it to an LPN program. And that's where those credits are coming from.
So when people come through your program, what do they get a certificate? Do they get a degree? What are they getting when they come through?
So for an LPN, and this is for all LPN programs, it is an advanced certificate. So it's not an associate's or anything of that matter. However, you do take your board's exam to be a licensed practical nurse. So it's the same board's exam. We prep our students for the same exact board's exam. And they will still have the same duties as an LPN when they graduate and pass their boards.
Awesome. Do you have some graduates already who are out there practicing in the field? Are you getting feedback from them?
Yeah, actually, one of my students came to work with me at one of the facilities I was working at part-time.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa. So that must have been neat. Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be so nice to see how they grow throughout their career.
Oh yeah, I put him through the ringer too when I worked with him because I knew he could handle it. So, and then I left that facility, but he's still working there now. He's in the ADRN program, and I still have friends at that facility. They tell me all the time that you did such a good job, and I'm like, I didn't. He's just a smart kid. I just abused him enough to get him through. So.
Yeah.
That's a different term for mentorship right there.
Yeah.
So is that traditionally? Go ahead.
No, that's fine. But he's like one of my great success stories because I actually got to see him. I have a lot of students that have worked in other facilities all over, like in Boise and things like that. But yeah.
So the program's growing. That's great. Yeah. I'm sorry, Angela, you had a question.
No, it's okay. My question, I've got so many questions I just keep. Is that traditionally the route a student would take, was go through your program and get the LPN and then move toward the College of Technology's RN program?
Yeah, that is pretty traditionally what we do see and what we highly encourage for our students. If that is what they want, I make it very clear that I want to gauge on what their end game goal is. If they're content and happy with being an LPN, then I think that's wonderful. There's plenty of job opportunities, especially in Idaho for LPNs, despite what some may say. They lie, because LPNs are highly needed and highly skilled. And so, but most of my students are more interested on getting all the way up to bachelor's and master's. And so we definitely help them. Our advisor, Jessie Caulfield, she is wonderful on meeting with these students and saying, what do you want to do? And they say, I want my bachelor's. So like, great, here's the courses you need to take. And she weaves it in so perfectly so that we are not wasting, again, none of that GI Bill, none of that, whatever other chapter, whatever's we're using from the VA, because we know how important and how crucial it is to be prudent. So she does work very well to help them take the classes they need to take to get them to that goal. But traditionally, my students will go all the way through the ADRN program through the College of Technology.
Very
And
nice.
they
Very, very
typically
nice.
will get their RN in less than 4 years.
Wow. Good savings on time, good savings on money for them. And the nursing field out there, the industry of nursing is still very, very big. We need a lot more nurses out there. This morning I read a Department of Labor projection for, the top needs here in southeastern Idaho. I'm sure it's everywhere else too, but health is right near the top. So nurses are one of the big, if not the top item that we need more of out there. So great field. Tremendous projected growth possibilities. And if you have any experience out there before, unless you're unless you're a Marine Corps field combat guy, everybody else who's got some health things, this is a great opportunity for you to look at.
I did want to add real quick though,
Mhm.
for the veterans, I have had veterans that were not medical personnel come to me and they really wanted to be nurses. And so what I actually did for them, because for our traditional LPN program through College of Tech, you have to be a CNA. So what I do with them is that we have CNA courses through workforce training, and we hook them up there. And we're like, you get your CNA, I want to say real quick, like to, minimize it. That's not what I mean at all, but get that. And so that we can get you into the
Right.
LPN program, which it is competitive for the traditional LPN program, but they have so much life experience that really helps with them
Right.
towards
Right.
the application process. And so I do still advocate and work with them and try to help them get to that goal. Because I do feel that the College of Technology nursing programs is really great for these non-traditional students, which are veterans. We understand most of our students in the traditional programs have jobs and families and all these other things. So
Mhm.
this one,
Mhm.
it more gears towards understanding that we have to work with their life. And so we're all about giving them what they need to have them be successful nurses.
Yeah, so cool. So cool.
Yeah.
Great that you do that too. I mean, everything about the College of Technology is a recognition of a lot of those types of students. Here in Sweet, we get a lot of those. And by the way, that CNA program, which is offered through Continuing Ed Workforce Training, I'm not sure if that's covered on the GI Bill, but there are other resources here in the state that'll pay for most of that as well that we can get you connected to. So great pathways. Hey, we're getting close to the end, Brittney, and it's always nice to be able to let our guests say if somebody wanted to reach out to you and or get more information, what would be the best way for them to do that? Do they call you, a website, email? What would you prefer?
Email would be the best way to reach me. I'm terrible about staying in my office to answer my phone. So I don't like sitting at a desk. I like to wander. So email is the best because I have it on my phone. So I don't know if you could put like a link for my email in the podcast if you have podcast notes, but I can just say my email is super easy. It's brittneygwinn@isu.edu. So it's BRITTNEY as in golf UINN.
Great.
And but you could also go on to the ISU College of Technology nursing programs website, and then there's links to me as well, and there's more information on all of our nursing programs. And some of our Army medics do have their LPN already through some Army programs.
Nice.
They know what I'm talking about. If they are those people, they still would be eligible to do our ADRN program with that, if that is something they would like to do as well.
Okay.
So it's good to have all the information for our veteran to nurse branch of the traditional LPN program and the ADRN program.
Right. So cool. So cool. And for those of you who might be thinking she may be a Navy corpsman, but this is open to all branches, right? Whether you're Coast Guard, Air Force, Army, even Marines, if you're in the right area, all of you guys and ladies out there, fantastic opportunity. Brittney, it's super for you to have taken the time here out of a very busy day as we wind down here at the university. But thank you so much for making the time to come on and talk with us again. It's very, very enjoyable, and love catching up with you. Wonderful references to Todd Johnson in the Veteran Services Center, Jenny Broomfield. It's a great team over there. This is a fantastic program for those of you looking. And what's even better is you have one of your own who's in it, and helping lead it. So that's a great person to talk with and get more information whenever. Right. Hey, Angela, we ought to be wrapping this up. I don't know if you heard the timer went off. We went through 20 minutes. I've still got 3 or 4 questions, but I think we hit the brunt of it.
Well,
What do you think?
It was such an educational opportunity for me, as you saw. I jumped in with a bunch of questions because I think it's such a wonderful program. So thank you, Brittney, for educating our listeners, including myself, about the Nurse to Vets program here at ISU.
Yeah, super job. Yeah. All right. Angela, do you care to wrap us up here like Paul normally does? By the way, in case anybody's wondering, Paul escaped. He decided to take a couple days of well-deserved vacation. So Angela's taken over that role as she can capably do, and Paul will join us next time. Angela, do you want to go ahead and close us out?
Sure. I'd like to wish all of you guys a Merry Christmas, even if you hear this after the new holiday. Thank you so much, Brittney. You've heard how you can get a hold of Brittney or the College of Tech about the nurse to or vet to nurse program. If you would like to get a hold of us at CEWT for any of our programs, including the CNA program that we can help you get funding with, we can be reached at CETrain at isu.edu. You can visit our website, cetrain.isu.edu, or you can reach us at 208-282-3372. Be safe, everyone.
Yes, and Merry Christmas.